a holy space, a makom kadosh, out of our homes. And you might start thinking, am I in a place right now that I need to curate to become my makom kadosh, or is it already that way? Is it about who? Is it about what? Is it about what I'm smelling? Is it about how I'm feeling and the feelings I'm dealing with? Is this a safe place where I can just land my airplane after so many months and months and months? Or is this the place that I just kind of like come cruising into every day and it just feels natural as can be, and that's why this is my makom kadosh? Or you may be like very far from that place right now, but we're going to help each other sculpt that makom kadosh tonight, and we'll start with this music. I want to play you now. This is Sue Horwitz, who's singing Debbie Friedman's "The Time Is Now."
Time is now. We've gathered round. So bring all your gifts and bring all your burdens with you. No need to hide. Arms open wide, we gather as one to make a makom kadosh. We come to tell, we come to hear, we come to teach, to learn, we come to grow, and so we say, the time is now. Sing to the one, God's presence is here, Shekhinah, you will dwell among us. We'll make this space a holy place, so separate, so whole. Rejoice every soul who enters here. Shana Tova, Happy New Year.
That's a nice way for us to begin tonight. So I want to just, we have a few more people joining us. So we do wish each other a Shana Tova, and it is truly a year unlike any other. And in that particular vein, let's see if I can share my entire screen with you. I hope you can see this. Maybe we can do it so you don't have to see all the silliness on the side here. Hang on. What I do want to say is that if you don't know each other, hopefully you'll feel like speaking tonight and doing a little bit of sharing, because you don't want to hear my voice the entire time. And also this is do it yourself, but we're all, new to this particular practice, because we've never been in the place before where we've had to totally create yesh mi'ayin, something from nothing, as they say, which was, it's sort of a mystical act. We feel like we're coming with not a lot, that we could possibly create. If I said to yourself, you got to do it yourself this year, high holidays, because of all the crazy circumstances we find ourselves in, you would probably look at me a little cross-eyed and say, no, thanks, but no thanks, because that's not how we do it. You know, Jews, we do this everything together. And fortunately or unfortunately, we have some sources to be able to draw inspiration from. The first time that we learned of you know, what it meant to kind of do something on our own, it came from the particular experience of losing the temple and being exiled from the land of Israel. And so we find in Ezekiel, this is a translation by Rabbi Julian Sinclair, Ezekiel cries out, "Lord God, you're wiping out the remnant of Israel." And God responds by declaring that God has, quote, "removed them," that is us, the Jewish people, "far among the nations and have scattered them among the countries, and I have become to them a mikdash me'at, a small sanctuary." So among God's many names, including Hamakom, the place, what would the inference be here? If God is called Hamakom, the place, that means God is the central address, and anytime you call upon God, God shows up. This is it. All you need is to be able to call upon God. Good, so we could just stop there. But we also call God a mikdash me'at. It looks like a mikdash meat, but it's not. Me'at means small, and a mikdash is a sanctuary or a tabernacle. And there's so much throughout the book of Leviticus. We're learning all about how to make a mikdash, how to make a traveling sanctuary that's going to follow us through the desert. Remember, after we were freed from Egypt, that liberation then came with this very large task in front of us. We had to wander, wander, wander. We couldn't build a temple and then undo it every day. We couldn't build even, like, you know, it was enough just to kind of stop the people after we followed either the cloud by day or the fire by night, right? After we followed God, we would camp and we would have to set up a temple so God would join us. Of course, God is everywhere, but we wanted to show that reverence for the one who had just liberated us, right? So that's when God became that mikdash me'at, or mikdash first, and then a mikdash me'at later after the destruction of the temple. So we're looking at, you know, the really ancient source as we come to this kind of incredible moment where we have the, I want to say, the rare opportunity. I don't know, it's hard to call it a blessing sometimes because these days have been so challenging, but we get to be still and therefore look at, this is one of my favorite concepts in philosophy, that we get to look at, you know, sort of, I'm picturing this lake right here, conveniently in the slide deck here, that we get to look at still water. That is, when we slow down our lives, we can watch, you know, the lake turn into, as Leonard Cohen said, a lady's mirror. It looks like a mirror. And that's when we quiet our lives. We can see things as they maybe truly are, which is a huge gift, a huge gift. And we're not always blessed to do that. So then the question is, when we find ourselves slowing down and seeing things as they truly are, right? This moment of real crisis for so many people. And those of us who are lucky enough to say, I have a community, I have a place here, I have a loving family that includes my own maybe, and this larger family that we're part of as a synagogue and as a community, we can face the difficulty together and see how we're supposed to move and operate from here. So how do we feel at home when we don't have like that home that we used to have? That's what we're doing this particular high holidays. We're saying it ain't the same. Much as I'd like to think this is going to be exactly the same. Look, you don't have to wear shoes this year. That's one big difference, right? You can come in your PJs. I can't, but you can, right? I'd be happy for you to. And I want to actually ask you to like kind of throw open the doors of your imagination, because as I've been schooled these last many months, you know, as soon as rabbis all over the world started panicking about the high holidays back in April, you know, and started, you know, kind of bogging down the internet with all these questions about, you know, how do we help our people deal with this really difficult moment? We started throwing open the doors. All the rules are out the window, folks. You're going to get Avinu Malkeinu, I promise. You're going to do plenty of chest pounding from the comfort of your own home, right? You're going to, like, though, also experience a little bit vicariously what it feels like. What it feels like to, you know, watch that person as they're eating their apple and honey and asking, are they okay? Are they going to have sweetness this year? You know, how do they make sweetness? I know that they've had a lot of bitterness. How are they holding it? You know, we get to kind of stare across the room at each other and say, how are you doing through this fast? Wow, this is a big one. You know, this fast this year comes with a lot of sackcloth and ashes. You know, a lot of bitterness kind of accompanies us. But we can help each other. And help each other feel at home and kind of come to this spot. So I'm going to take us off of share for a half a second. Oops. And there is one more person who's been patiently waiting in the waiting room. What I want to ask is for you to reflect for just a second on one thing that you're going to be bringing with you to the high holidays to help you set the stage. How is it going to be? You know, who's missing? Who's here? What is it that you'll miss looking, staring around the room at synagogue? And what is it that you're going to be, you know, sort of supplementing in your own life to make up for the fact that, you know, you don't get it quite the same this year? And how is it going to be to pray? How are we going to help each other through that? So I want to just start with a very quick set of introductions. I'm going to turn down the lovely reamers there for a second. And a very quick set of introductions and where you think you are going to be this year. And one thing you're going to do to help set the stage that you already know from the beginning of this hour-long session together. So I'm just going to call on people. Is that okay? And you don't have to talk, but if you want to, we'd love you to share. Phyllis, Shabbat Shalom, Phyllis. Oh yes, I want to invite you to share. Do you have something at the ready? Do you have a place that you're going to be this particular? Where's your Makom Kadosh this year? Your holy place, your holy space. And will you take yourself off of mute? Because I don't know if I can.
Right where I am right now, in my second bedroom, sitting in front of my laptop. I do have the set of prayer books. So that in itself can make me feel like I'm at a service. You know, I'm not just looking at people, I'm looking at the book. You know, we might try to get together for dinner as a small family group, but as far as the services, I'm just going to be here at home.
You want to come to my house, Mom?
What? No. No, thanks. I'll just do this. It's very distracting, you know, other places. But thank you,
Julie. That was
Julie.
a lovely offer, though, Julie. That was really nice. It helps to have family on this call. Who's coming to whose house? If you're in the bubble, man, you know,
I think we're all going to Paula's. Paula
Okay,
Weinstein.
awesome.
Paula Weinstein.
Paula Weinstein. Not going to Paula Kaufman. Paula Kaufman. Shabbat, thanks, Phyllis. Thank you, Phyllis. Paula Kaufman, where are you going to be? Where's your Makom Kadosh this year?
It's going to be right here in our home, and I'm hoping that the whole family will be able to join us. There's no reason why not. We have been together this summer, all of us, in a small, tiny house down in South Carolina. So I think that that will be okay to do that. Um, and it's not going to be that different than other times as far as being together for our Erev Rosh Hashanah dinner and the next day, of course. What will be different, of course, is not meeting at the temple, and that's going to be a challenge with all the small kids. So we're going to have to plan that around the services that you are planning for them, and maybe we'll join in, but I'm not sure if they'll join in for the adult services. I mean, we haven't talked about it enough to make a plan about that, and it's been on my mind.
Well, we're
So,
making it easy for you this year. We're actually, we're recording the services ahead of time so you can watch them whenever works for you. So the kids will be able to come in as soon as you say, sit down, we're doing services. So we're trying to work with we have the flexibility this year. To do that for our families.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Well,
I will look for that.
The juggling act for sure.
Yeah.
Hi, Laura Klubach. Shabbat Shalom.
Hi, everyone. So Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, I don't know how this is all going to work. For those of you who don't know me, I have two teenage daughters, 14 and almost 17. And my special holy place is actually part of my bedroom, which is kind of like a yoga meditation space. And I have my prayer books, but it doesn't feel like this is a place for all of us. And so often I'm the one who's on, one of these services. And I was talking with my older daughter, like, how are we going to make this special? Because, for teens, maybe sitting through a service, I don't know how that's going to work. But we actually talked about one thing that was just kind of fun, not exactly related to the space issue, but how are we going to celebrate issue, is she thought might be really interesting. She's been studying a lot of different Jewish cultures. And she was like, what if we just try to have a lot of different kinds, not just Ashkenazi food, but Sephardic food and Mizrahi, and like foods that were celebratory for Rosh Hashanah. And I thought that was just such an interesting idea to kind of make something different and something unusual for us. So I think it's going to be maybe more about the time that we do spend and maybe just recognizing that as teenagers, it may not be quite what I want exactly for us all to be together, but the food's important too. So
if you're going to keep them, we all know what keeps them. And I'm talking to those of you who were amazing and did the Jewish foods last week. Julie and Paula and and Beata were on making round chalot, and what was the other one that you made? I heard it was delicious.
Apple tartlets.
Apple tartlets. Okay. So there's got to be a Sephardic version of those two, I'm sure. But that's a really cool thing and you can talk to Paula Kaufman about that. I'm sure she has an Egyptian recipe for the tartlet. But yeah, it's a challenge with teens and kids keeping their interest. And maybe that's part of blowing open the doors of imagination here, is to cull all of those ideas. How do we actually amplify this all for each other this year? It's a real opportunity for your kids to get creative. Right. Laura, I hope they do. I mean, I know they're creative already. So that's exciting. Can I break off from this, friends? Because I know that, I have some kind of cool ideas that I want to share with you, and then we'll keep on sharing as we go. You'll share where your Makom Kadosh is, and maybe you'll give a little bit more thought to it as I share my screen right now. And I hope I didn't cut anybody off who's just craving that moment to talk, but we'll have that in a few minutes. There's some really great stuff happening in the Jewish world right now, and I'm completely stealing it writ large, just about. So I'm crediting all those amazing people who, if I could figure out how to go over here and not show you everything, but we'll stay right here. What I'm so amazed by is just the capacity that people have to think out of the box as rabbis, as scholars, and people who are just really trying to to think anew about everything. So some really amazing questions show up for us. And these are all questions about, you know, if we were to really, as this is a woman named Dory Midnight, and she's a poet, and she's kind of hilarious, and does some really great thinking. She's done a lot of poetry about the pandemic actually this year. So if you went on dorymidnight.com, and I'll show you at the end all of my sources, you'll see that she's ready to make us think this year and not take it for granted. She's asking all these questions about where do you want to be this year? I'm not going to read all these slides, but where do you want to be? How are you going to honor this year? And she's giving you all kinds of, you really can open this up for yourself. You can think, is it going to be from my bed, my bathtub, someplace that you feel is just calling to you, and maybe not a place that you always go. Although I'm kind of with Laura, like I have my place where I have my meditation space that I go in the morning, and I feel just kind of like I sink right in. It's kind of easier for me. But I also, what I love here is she's like, couch for it. If that's what you have to do to get yourself there this year, try that. And then there's these, kind of technical questions. This virtual thing, it's kind of hard. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here. You are all pretty much total experts at navigating Zoom at this point. But how's it going to feel to do the al-khaits through this, by looking in the screen? Am I going to feel the same sense of responsibility, that same sense of dami lifnei ata omed, that know before whom you stand in my bedroom, right? I mean, last night I was relocated for our Shabbat services because we were having some painting done because we had some leaking in our house. And so I ended up in the little hallway before my bathroom, sitting there making my makom kadosh. I'm not quite sure if everybody knew that, and I wasn't ready to announce it, but I happen to have some lovely art that, doubled as a studio in my bathroom. But really, it's really, we're kind of making this work however we can. And what do you do if you're juggling these multiple roles that you may have? Caring for other people, you've already talked about that, right? What are the concerns that you have about going into this? Is there anybody who wants to share? Is there something strange or, even a little bit discomforting about going into the holidays this year? Something you want to crowdsource a little bit on? Any questions that come up for you or concerns? All legitimate. Well, maybe as we go on, you'll come up with some. Radha? Hi, Radha.
Yeah, I feel so good about this because when I was a Hindu, I lit the lamp every morning, every evening, read from my scripture books and all that, but now it's like coming back home, returning home.
In
Jewish,
yeah.
So I'm so excited to learn more about the Bet HaMikdash, and then now you're talking about the Makom Kadosh, right? And in our own home. So I am so excited to learn. So I got this painting. It says "Gather."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and see that?
Yeah,
and,
you see that.
Yeah, and I got the little shofar and my oil lamp and my olive oil, and I'm going to put the Star of David, frame it like my grandfather and my father had. So I'm going to get those things back, and then of course our prayer book, Siddur book, and my alphabets, Hebrew alphabets, like a first grader. So
great.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
Yeah, well, you're setting the stage, and I think it is a great thing to be able to. I want you to think also about, like, what are those holidays? As you just were talking, Radha, you gave a beautiful prelude to this particular set of questions here. You know, if you could sort of handpick from your favorite home holidays, because there are many, right? There's so many home holidays that we have. And, you know, some of them could be from Jewish tradition, others might be from, you know, just living in the United States. You know, we have a lot to choose from of home holidays between Passover and Thanksgiving. And now, you know, whereas Rosh Hashanah used to be a very rushed meal, right? You're not going to have to jump in the car. You're going to be able to kind of move to the couch or move to wherever it is you're going to be. Those of us who are going to be setting up from our home sanctuary. Not everybody here is necessarily going to do that. You know, people have different choices of how they're going to do high holidays this year. But if you're coming in to a virtual space, you know, the same questions apply. You know, how do we want it to feel? What can we transfer over from that experience of walking into a crowded sanctuary and being able to see our friends? And if we were seeing our friends this year, our community, our families in person, you know, how would we be asking them to like, you know, support us through this year? You know, this has been quite a year. What, you know, can we use our families and our friends to help us dream up what this actually looks like? Do you have any particular intentions going into 5781? And what have been the themes? I mean, we're holding all of this as we go into the high holidays. And what's gonna, you know, in terms of music, in terms of sound and sight, what is it that's gonna make you feel like I still got the high holidays? I still got it this year. You know, I know that if I don't have a latke at Hanukkah, I don't feel like it completely happened. So what's the equivalent for me this year as I go, you know, I feel sort of a little bit selfish because honestly, I, as the rabbi, get to work on high holidays so intensely. I don't just have a few days. I'm like steeped in it for months beforehand. So by the time I get there, I feel like, you know, I've been through it a few times already, just in preparation. But you know, how do you make sure that you even if you didn't hear that particular Hashivenu, or, you know, if you don't get Return Again, or a particular song, how are you going to bring it into your own? Fortunately, we have so many options in front of us because we have the benefit of all this incredible technology, but we have to use it to create this, you know. And this is my question, is really, where is your ultimate Makom Kadosh? If you were going to go anywhere this year, you know, for me, this particular slide really, you know, set of pictures really speaks to me, because, you know, there are times that I only feel like my spiritual experience can happen, you know, up on a mountaintop or down by the ocean. And I know I can't have that. So, you know, but instead of having that sense of deprivation or of being in front of us, you know, my beautiful friends at shul, what do I do? How do I make it a little bit of a sense of all of that? So finding our Makom Kadosh and knowing that we are in, you know, every place we call upon God, we will find our Mikdash Me'at. Is that going to be challenging? Is that going to be easy this year? So there are many suggestions here. And this is adapted by, you know, this is something I pulled together based on some really wonderful work by Rabbi Elise Goldstein and Dory Midnight. And here's some tips that they give out. And I can send this to all of you later so you can look at all the tips yourself. The first one is for you to choose your space carefully and not doing it at the last minute. I'm preaching to the choir on this one because here you are. But is your space going to be conducive to reflection? Think of how that, Laura was talking about, am I going to share the space or am I not going to share the space, right? What do I need for me? Is it okay to be selfish this year and not, how many times in our lives, please God, are we going to experience this, right? Of actually having some choices. So how much do I want to spend with other people? How much do I want to be by myself? When do I check in with others and so on? So really choosing the space in your home carefully. And then once you have chosen that space, choosing a blessing that is going to help you bless it. And some of the Hebrew font is weird down here, but for folks who are reading the Hebrew, don't read it exactly, but the transliteration is correct. So you can make the choice to say Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu. That actually comes from our Passover Haggadah, but it means blessed is this place, meaning this godly place, and may it be blessed. So once you've set up that space to state your intention, what do I want to have happen in this place? And if I think about myself in terms of teshuvah, of turning, and this place is a holy place, am I going to be wearing shoes? I mean, actually, we know that there's a biblical character who took off his shoes when he encountered God, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher, found God in that particular place, knew it was God, and took off his shoes to distinguish makom to makom, one place to another place. And really saying this over here, not holy space, but I cross over this threshold and I come into my holy space. So marking it with the bracha is a very Jewish thing. Of course, this is all totally made up because we don't do this in quite the same way. What's the way that we usually mark a holy place? Hang a mezuzah. Put up a little mezuzah. Say ligboa mezuzah. I'm going to hang up my mezuzah, affix it. But this is a temporary space, maybe. Maybe it sets up a new precedent, though, in our lives. But so we're kind of like shooting from the hip here. What is the blessing that comes to you? Can you make it here? Sitting. Now, God knows I've spent some time this year choosing synagogue chairs for the sanctuary. But you, my friends, get to decide where to sit. Where is it going to be? And one suggestion would be to put a cushion or a festive pillow on that place where you're going to sit so you're comfortable. Drape it with a talit, a prayer shawl, or a piece of fabric, or a scarf, or something that means something to you. I think of all the creative ways that we can make something, we can renew it as holy when we, we assign new meaning to something. So I remember that I was doing a wedding once, and the Ethiopian Khatan, groom, decided to bring his little wimple that he was wrapped in as a baby in Ethiopia under the chuppah at his own wedding, and then he and his wife were wrapped in it. And it was like a very sweet, so there's a repurposing that we can do with some things in our life. And if anybody has any suggestions for how you might repurpose something, you should feel free to jump in. Take yourself off of mute and jump in with any ideas you have here. I think it's just kind of a fun sort of idea to think, where am I just going to sit, or am I going to make this a holy space, right? And then there's the challenge that I think is very real, which is Phyllis was noting before how she's going to be sitting right in front of her laptop. Well, the beauty of a laptop, as you know, Phyllis, is that it can go with you anywhere. So are you going to be bold and go where no woman has ever gone before, and make it a point to could you go someplace else with your laptop in your home? to make that space no longer your workspace, right? But you know, as one suggestion is covering your cloth with a white tablecloth, right? Or a runner or a placemat. And then of course you know, putting some flowers or some green, something around it so that it makes it beautiful. Is anybody gonna be, you know, I mean, I know that Julie Reamer, I think, won a state fair table competition. No, was that you? Or was that?
That was, oh God.
Becky Shedler.
Yes, Becky Shedler.
Becky Shedler won that, okay. But there are those people who have a real eye for this kind of thing, setting up, you know, the actual decor. Yes, thank you very much. Other, you know, if there's other creative ways, or do you have any other creative ways that you're thinking of setting up your space in terms of, you know, actually having that beautiful table, sort of like you're setting it for Shabbat or something. And of course, this is, you know, having some heirlooms, something that kind of speaks from, you know, this was Bubby and Zadie's. This is a, you know, a moment to bring in that Kiddush cup or that honey that you bought at you know, that came from Israel, right? Having those nearby. And I think that it's you know, it's important to position your screen so that you can feel a little bit like you're there. You know, that it feels like that sacred space is coming together. So I'm sure that you've had, you know, hopefully if you haven't done this, you can have some techie in your life who can kind of plug you into a larger screen on your television if you have one, and project it on there, because I think it you know, having it bigger, having it makes it hopefully a little bit better than just staring into a smaller screen. There's the reality of doing everything virtually is that there's going to be interruptions. So, you know, this would be a good time to hang something on your outside of your door if you expect, you know, this is a constant distraction for me at my home is the somebody either dropping off a package or one of my dogs who has escaped, or, you know, something like that. So it's, you know, it's important to be able to communicate to the outside world, like this is a day not like any other. And also turning off those other distractions that happen, the pings, the things that will keep you from being fully present, is really crucial, because, you know, it's hard enough sometimes to focus on the content of the service. But in that regard, you know, what are the things that you can wear to bring yourself into that space, waking up in the morning of Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, or going, you know, from your closet into your holy space, wearing something special, something that has meaning, either a kippah or a talit, can really go a long way in helping you connect and transforming the space. Was somebody saying something? Oh, just a ping. Okay, I'm gonna stop reading, I promise, in a second. We have two more little suggestions. One, somebody mentioned having the machzor, or the High Holiday Prayer Book. Now this year, as you know, we're gonna be using Mishkan HaNefesh, the machzor on our screen, the visual tefillah version of Mishkan HaNefesh. You'll still be able to use your machzor if you have one at home, and if you don't, we can either lend you one or you can buy one from us. But it's a beautiful machzor, and you'll be able to see the corresponding page numbers on your screen, and you can turn to it in your book. And for some people, you know, the digital version of any book, I'm a big Audible fan, but some people really prefer holding the book in their hands. So to be able to have that and have the tactile experience instead of just watching it the whole time is something that you might want to do. So you'll let us know if we can help you in that way. And then I want to like completely blow your minds and tell you that it's really possible, even in some ways advisable, even though our services are going to be much shorter this year because we know that people have a shorter attention span on in a digital platform. So I want to encourage you to have books nearby. Like Radha was showing us everything she has, you know, sort of those things that highlight the experience around her, including books. Books that inspire you, having, you know, either family books, you know, maybe it's a machzor that your family used, or a talit that somebody, you know, somebody's old talit nearby, but even just a book of poetry or something that, you know, that gives you a little bit of enlightenment. You know, you can pull it out and as you're listening to the service go on, have a few moments of just being here but not here is really, really okay and encouraged. I used to actually bring a book to shul, don't tell anybody. Before I went into rabbinical school, I would bring a book with me to shul because it was, you know, kind of rounded out the experience for me a little bit. And finally, per Radha and what she was telling us before, having some beautiful art behind you. Just as you're looking around the synagogue and, you know, taking that all in, we don't have that this year. So can you find something like this? Actually, this is available online and you can get it in poster form. It says Vasuli Mikdash V'Shachanti B'Tocham, from the Torah. May this space be a sanctuary. Or another beautiful one I just found online earlier this week. The letters Yud He Vav He, God's holy name in the middle, and then I am holy, all is clear, you are loved, it is perfect. I mean, beautiful art that's kind of, you know, if you're to meditate on it, can really take you to, can help you create that space that you want to channel God, that you want to have a sense of clarity and wholeness and sanctity. Some of the final things I want to touch on are really have to do with transforming a space. And this is the last, you know, one of the last things I want to say, which is that as we, you know, I'm thinking about the fact that for us, there's been a lot of struggle for people as they kind of learn to navigate the new space, especially during the pandemic, and feeling the limitations of a space, feeling like this is a place that this, you know, if we think back to the beginning of the pandemic, for me, I think of how my kids were all crowded into my house and it became like a life raft for our family to be able to gather around and be together. So here's a suggestion for, you know, sort of helping transform this state of being. And this is the blessing that we make over our bodies. But, you know, this home in some ways has held the space for us in the same way that our neshamas, our souls, are held in our bodies. And just as our souls have gone through a lot through this experience, so too, this space has to be, you know, in some ways transformed from being a place where we have known fear and grief and anxiety. Maybe we've even known illness. Maybe we've known people who have died recently and we haven't been able to be with them in the same way. Maybe there are moments that we've encountered of our own mortality. So, you know, I think of how in some rituals and cultures, they smudge a space. they'll take some sage, right? In some cultures, other places will hang garlic, right? So what is it that we can do? We can make this blessing, Rofeh Chol Basar. You are the one, God, who is the doctor, the Rofeh, the healer of all flesh, umafli la'asot, and does wonders. The kinds of wonders that we're asking for, which is to help us just make some changes here so that we can, not think of this as a space that has been tinged with sorrow, has been really mindful of our vulnerability, but also walking towards strength. Can we make it a beautiful, transformative, healing space? I'm gonna stop here and I want to get some feedback from you before I'll take us off screen for a second, off of the share. So tell me for you, or share with us if you would, are there any new ideas that you got from tonight, just from these 10 suggestions? And is there one thing that you might find yourself gravitating towards to make your space really a Makom Kadosh? And maybe, is it going to take any extra work on your part, or is it going to be something that's going to be easy? Where are you? Yeah, Colleen? Or did you raise your hand? You didn't? Do you want to talk?
I can talk.
Sure. Thank you.
I'm thinking, I'm in a new space right now, so I'm still trying to figure out where my living is going, never mind where my holidays are going. I'm figuring out all the nooks and crannies. I've been here
Oh, wow.
for officially a week today, so very new.
That's great, Mazal Tov.
Thank you.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
It's a great space, but I'm thinking about maybe spending some of the time outside because I have a little outdoor space now. It's shared, which might be weird, but if the weather holds up, I know that there's this disconnection by looking at a screen, but I do feel more connected when I'm out, to God when I'm outside. So kind of balancing those very disconnected Jewish space and connection that I feel when I'm out in the open. I can call it during Yom Kippur. We had a arboretum connected to campus, so I'd spend the majority of the day walking outside and reflecting. And now that other options are kind of close to me, I really want to bring that practice back.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Will you be joining with other people in going outside and being in that space? Or are you thinking just it'll be you and having to explain to your neighbors if you hear me beating my chest or or down for Aleinu, right?
Some weird Jewishness going on outside.
Awesome Jewishness. That's great.
But
but
I traditionally spend a lot of Yom Kippur alone anyway, so I think that I'll continue that. Rosh Hashanah is a little bit harder, but as we were doing this, I was texting my mom and being we should do a virtual apples and honey kind of celebration. And
that's an awesome idea.
I've been separated from my family for a couple of years during the holidays. It's always hard, but I think now that we're kind of in this mindset of how can we connect online, it's actually helpful to me because I've been physically separated for longer than this pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've kind of had that experience all the way since Passover, right?
Yeah.
That was our first foray into Jewish ritual online, I guess, aside from Shabbat. I think it's kind of wonderful in some ways that we can connect this way, though. You know, I can't remember the last time I saw some of my families in a holiday setting. So it can be wonderful. And I love how you're turning, you know, apple cider into applesauce here, as I think to quote the old adage. Diana, are you going to be right there where you are right now in your, for the Chagim?
Probably not in this particular spot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and I'm not sure. Usually when I'm at services, I go into my living room and I'm there because I have lots of books there. And many times I do pull something off the shelf when I hear something I'm not sure of or something, I'll go and, you know, look up something real quick. So I like it for that. But, you know, being alone, I come from a big family and it's hard. But, you know, as you say, I'm really thankful for Zoom because sometimes I have dinner with my son and their, you know, and my grandkids, and that's nice. And you know, we do that. I think it's just hard being by yourself and not having the community. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have Zoom. I'm thankful for it.
Yeah. For sure. Everybody is, we are better off that we can at least see each other, even if it's one-dimensionally at this point. But I do want to remind you that there are a couple of opportunities where people are going to be getting together in person for the high holidays. One is Tashlich, which is going to be down by the steps at Kosai, obviously with masks and socially distant. And we're going to try to get some rice paper to throw into the sayota so it's less invasive and polluted, even though, you know, people might argue that challah is totally fine, but I have a feeling the birds may not benefit as much as, or maybe too much they benefit. So we're going to be doing that. And then the next day, actually, the day after Rosh Hashanah, or for some people, the second day of Rosh Hashanah, we're going to be meeting up at the building and having a what are we calling it? We're calling it a food, a high holiday food drive-through. So you can drop off your perishable goods for the Mid-Ohio Food Bank. And also you can pick up any voter registration or absentee ballot forms, and then we'll send you off with a shofar call. So that's, you know, we're trying to make the best of those two opportunities that will have to be in person. So hopefully you'll see some of your people in 3 dimensions. Great. Anybody else, like, is this, when I was planning for tonight, the thought came to me that I should have at least a picture of my children nearby, because I think they're going to be all over the place, you know, scattered throughout the city this year. So for me to be able to see the little version of them, how they used to be, and now the bigger version of them, you know, makes me feel somewhat successful as a parent. And I can use that inspiration sometimes as a parent. But also they make me happy, you know, and just, you know, finding myself kind of everybody in their own rooms these days. It's nice to have that connection. Anybody else? Mary Lynn?
Well, I was, decades ago, I used to, when I was a Jewish educator, I used to go to the Cage conferences. So I have a supply of CDs and cassettes of Jewish music, you know, Debbie Friedman, Doug Kotler, and some others. And I thought, you know, that I'll pull those out, you know, when I'm not at services and listen to that. And maybe I have some, I was really into the storytelling, you know, with Penina Schramm and people like that. I've got their books that I, you know, pull those out and maybe read some town stories. Some, you know, some, you know, town and stories, which are always fun to read. And then I have an outdoor, I'm outside at the moment. So if the weather's good, I look out into a wooded area. I'm on the other side of the Jehovah's Witnesses temple. So I, you know, it's really nice to be out here and you know, listen to the, whatever I'm listening to out in the trees, cicadas, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and other things. So, and I'll have of course, this will be Oscar's first high holidays. So he's very excited.
He looks it. I think
Yeah.
you might need to get him a kippah.
Yeah, I'll get him a kippah, and he has a
Plastic.
shofar and everything. So
I'm sure my dogs would probably eat the shofar.
right. I could put my grandfather's talit around him.
That's a good idea. That's a great
Yeah.
idea. All right, so
Right.
let me thank you, Mary Lynn.
Sure.
I hope that goes well for Oscar, and let me offer you guys a last few thoughts here. And again, I'll be sending this to you so you can have your own version of this. But a good thing for us to have around is this beautiful bracha, Birkat HaBayit. A lot of people have this hanging in their homes, and for our sake, to be able to say that the blessing that we want for these high holidays is really just this: B'zeh hashar lo yavot tsa'ar. And you can hear the rhyming in these beautiful lines. Let no sorrow come through this gate is what we wish. B'zot hadira lo tavot tzara. Let no trouble come in this dwelling. B'zot hadelet lo tavo behala. Let no fright come through this door. B'zot hamachlaka lo tavo machloket. Let no conflict come to this place. And b'zeh hamakom tihi bracha v'shalom. Let this home be filled with blessing and peace. That's our wish, and the hope for this year is that we just have a Shana Tova, and I hope that you'll indulge me for just a second, because we are coming toward the end of Shabbat, that, originally when we were going to be doing this program, I was going to base it on just, all the senses that come alive for us. And I still invite you to think of creating your Makom Kadosh vis-a-vis your different senses. So really having not just like honey this year, but like a really good one, some of that delicious, like thick clove, I don't know, all these different versions of honey that exist out there. Maybe a different kind of apple you can make shehecheyanu over. And having, great smells around you, like we have for Havdalah, taking all of our senses really seriously and creating that space. And so, in that way, we're transforming the place from Hol to Kodesh, from the mundane into this sanctuary, this kind of inner sanctum of just this room. But hopefully, when at the end of services or at the end of any of our moments together, we look around and we say, God, this place has become that much more kadosh for me, which is really what I want for all of us this year, to not feel anything chaser, anything lacking, but totally feel this sense of fullness and really imbibing these holidays in ways we maybe never have. So it's an opportunity. All right, I'm going to invite you to take yourselves off of mute and sing along with me to Havdalah, and you'll pardon the fact that I only have 3 separate candles. I don't have a Havdalah candle because I haven't been out very much, and it didn't occur to me that Amazon would have them, even though they probably do. So we'll light our 3 wicks and bring them together, and you guys can sing with me. Yeah, la 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
Olam
Ore Ri Hagafen Ore Ri Hagafen Ya la 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 Ya la ya la 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 Ya la ya la 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 Ya la ya la 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 Ya la la Ya la 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. You guys sound gorgeous. Borei minei b'samim. Borei minei b'samim. Borei minei b'samim. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. La 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei me'orei ha'esh Borei me'orei ha'esh Borei me'orei ha'esh Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei hamavdil ben kodesh lechol Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol Ya la 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 L'chaim
L'chaim.
Chaim.
L'chaim.
Shavua tov
Shavua tov.
Shavua
Shavua
tov Shavua
tov.
tov Shavua tov Shavua tov Shavua tov Shavua tov Eliyahu Eliyahu Hatishbi Eliyahu 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 Hagilati Bimhera Beyomenu Yavo Eleinu Imashiach Ben Imashiach Ben David. You know what? That sounded awesome. I think you'll all agree. I really want to thank you for coming tonight. And I hope you got some good ideas for what you can do next in terms of kind of making this place come alive for you. And I will be thinking of you. And hopefully, you know what I would love is if you took a picture of your Makom Kadosh and sent it in so we can share it with people, if you feel comfortable doing that. And I want to invite you to come next week when the holidays will be sung. Or you'll get a preview of the music that you know and love from our cantor. But also she'll give a little history lesson of sort of where some of the nusach, the melodies come from, and also a little bit of the history behind some of the actual liturgy. So that should be fun. And then the week after that, also 7 o'clock on Saturday night, in 2 weeks, we're going to be having Slichot, where you'll be hearing from a few members of the congregation and another congregation in Pennsylvania, Malvern, Pennsylvania, where my chavruta, my study partner, Rabbi Michelle Perlman, is the rabbi. And she'll have a couple of her congregants, and we'll have some of ours talking about when they knew that their voice and their vote really mattered. It'll be a nonpartisan opportunity to talk about, voting and how important that is, and how it connects to teshuvah, to change. So we hope that you'll join us for all of those things. I just really want to thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
And I hope that some of you were able to come last week too, because I heard it was so awesome, and I had a Shiva call and could not come. But Julie, Paula, I heard you guys were awesome, and I hope you saved something for me to eat.
Well, it's live now. You can watch it. It's on the website. It went live.
All right, awesome. Thanks everybody for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you all, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. I'll send you all that information.
Shalom.
Okay.
Lila Tov, everyone.
Lila Chow.
Bye.
Lila
Bye-bye.
Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming, everybody. Bye.